Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be doing a rundown of the major changes that just recently went live on the Shadowlands beta. With the release quickly approaching, I figured there would be some interest in what could potentially be going live for people's respective classes or specs. Now before I start rambling too much, let's just jump right into it, starting with monks. Yes, monks actually have a blue post, it's a miracle. While these changes are not exactly what everyone wanted, it is a start and there is some hope for the future. So first off, they're making it easier to actually dual wield Orb two-hand on both Windwalker and Brewmaster, removing the requirements on Fist of Fury and Blackout Kick. They're also upgrading all of the Celestial Invocation spells. So for Brewmasters, you're getting some extra damage. Same with Windwalkers, and these are just straight buffs, just straight extra damage. Extra damage is always nice. Mistweaver is getting some interesting changes with Invoke Yulon and Invoke Chi-Ji. Now I want to focus on the Chi-Ji changes because these are definitely the bigger changes. A big boost to Fist Weaving. Hopefully here, proccing off physical attacks. I know on beta it was bugged, not working with too many things, especially things like melee attacks. So hopefully that is fixed. And also the big interaction with their mastery here. I think this is a good change. I think a big problem with Mistweaver Mastery right now is that it just doesn't interact with the vast majority of the spec. So if they're not looking at changing it, just making it interact with more things is a welcome change. On top of this down here, they've said that look forward to more changes coming next week and possibly more bug fixes, etc. Monks are extremely buggy right now on beta, so this is welcome. So it's something to look forward to, monks. Next week, maybe some big changes. Next, we do have a brand new mastery for Shadow Priests. This is another welcome change. Previously, mastery was just kind of a dump stat for Shadow Priests. Now it could be very, very powerful, obviously depending on tuning. So what they have now is a damage increase based on X% for each Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, and Devouring Plague on the target. And in Void form, you receive the maximum effect. That could be very powerful, especially with their new talents in Searing Nightmare and Psychic Link. The combination, they could be very, very strong in Mythic Plus and very, very strong in a raid environment. So this is interesting. It'll depend on tuning, of course. Next, we do have Maelstrom returning for Elemental Shamans. This is a fantastic change, and I think the biggest thing here is Blizzard is actually walking back some of their changes and acknowledging that the systems they put in were not as good as the ones that were previously implemented. This is a great change for Elemental, and they've also said it is not coming back for enhancement. Another good decision there. So I mean, big props to Blizzard for making this change. It was very, very needed for Elemental Shaman. Moving on, we have some changes to Unholy Dk. Now, I actually don't play too much DK, so I'm not the best expert to describe these changes to you guys, but this looks like a pretty easy fix for Scourge Strike. It now prioritizes Festering Wound targets inside Death and Decay. They're making Apocalypse feel a little bit better to press by allowing it to generate 2 runes. I believe this is a setup change, so that with Unholy Blight applying Virulent Plague, make it a little easier. Unholy Assault, now I believe this is a talent on the level 50 row, just a buff to that talent. I'm not sure how this fits in the space, but talent buffs are always nice. And this spell here is actually Soul Reaper, which is their execute spell, reduced to 6 seconds from 8 seconds. So that'll definitely help them in execute phases and in Mythic Plus for rune generation as well. Next, we have some pretty big changes for balanced druids. So first, Shooting Stars is baseline. Fantastic. Great change. The talent replacing it is called Solstice, and it's basically just a 300% Shooting Stars proc chance increase during the first 6 seconds of every eclipse. So it could be interesting. We'll see if it ends up getting any use. I have my doubts, but we'll see how it goes. Next, another solid change is Star Surge now interacts with Eclipse differently. So Eclipse is now going to have a flat duration of 15 seconds. And Star Surges then will buff the damage increase here on Wrath or Starfire respectively. So if the baseline is 20% for Wrath, 100% for Starfire, Star Surge is going to buff that damage bonus, which is I think it's a good change. On top of this, we also have some changes to their dot damage. I believe their spender damage had a slight decrease, and some minor changes to Soul of the Forest, making it no longer a flat numbers increase, but potentially more interesting Astral Power Generation / Starfire crit chance. So kind of neutral on those changes, but we'll see how they end up playing out. Next we have a Ret Paladin. They have some talents coming back. Execution Sentence, which I know a lot of people were big fans of. And then Inquisition is actually being completely removed, and there is a new talent called Final Reckoning. So you call down a blast of heavenly energy, dealing holy damage to all targets in the area and causing them to take 50% increased damage from your holy power abilities. Then the passive is well off cooldown. Your attacks have a high chance to call down a bolt that deals holy damage and causes the target to take 10% increased damage for your next holy power ability. Sounds pretty cool. Again, I'm not really a Ret Paladin player, so I don't know how this is going to play out on this row in practice, competing with Crusade and Sanctified Wrath, but changes are welcome. Now, Holy. Looking at both Holy and Disc Priest here. Holy get a small change to Apotheosis. A welcome change, just makes the button feel better to press by resetting the cooldown of all your Holy Words. For Disc, Lenience is moving back to the level 50 talent row, and they now have a new talent there competing with it called Spirit Shell. It's familiar to some, but changed how it exactly works. So for 12 seconds on a 1 minute cooldown, your healing abilities will now create an absorb shield instead of actually healing the target. I'm ready for some big absorb shenanigans to happen. This could be very interesting, especially in like raid environments, just to preemptively put up massive absorb shields on the raid and then just tank a big mechanic. Could be very interesting. Next, just a small change to Rapture, making it feel better to press again. Just putting a power word shield on the target when activated, or yourself if you don't have a target. Moving on, we have a few new Mythic Plus affixes. So, first, Inspiring. This works just like Tide Emissaries, so it puts a buff on any ads within 15 yards of the inspired ad, and it will make them immune to CC. This does not apply to the ad itself, so you kind of have to make the option of, okay, do we CC the inspired ad, or do we just pull it all together and not worry about interrupts or CC on this pack? Guess it's interesting. People don't really like Tide Emissaries. I didn't really like Tide Emissaries, but you know, well, we'll see how it works out. Next we have Spiteful. So this does kind of work a little bit like the thing from Beyond. So basically when an enemy dies, its corpse can spawn a shade that'll fixate a player, and it's just going to try and melee them. It will lose 8% of its max HP every second, and its HP and damage scale with the key level. And these ads can be like stunned, knocked back, all those kinds of CCs, so they're a little bit easier to deal with. The last affix is like Volcanic but for melee. They're basically whirlwinds that spawn in melee range of the ads, and they'll just kind of rotate outwards, and if you get hit by them you take some damage and you get knocked back. And the spawns do scale with the number of ads, just like things like Explosive or Volcanic, so it's just you know, a Volcanic that melee have to deal with now. I am actually liking the changes of melee having to deal with more mechanics than range for stuff like this, especially the Spiteful and Storming both kind of implement that, and it makes it a little bit easier for range to get into groups on weeks like this, so that's always welcome. Now the last change I want to talk about is actually Artifact Transmogs. This is just a straight up positive change for the game. Spec restrictions are gone, so if you want that, you know, Holy Pally Hammer on your Ret spec, you're welcome to. The two-piece artifacts have been separated, so if you are a prot warrior, you hate the weapon transmog, love the shield, well, you can transmog them separately now. Great change. You can also transmog one-handed weapons on either or both hands. So you're an in-hand shaman, you want two doom hammers? Go for it, you have two doom hammers. It's a great change, nothing negative about this change at all, it's just more customization options for players. And that's pretty much all that I'm going to talk about this week's beta build. If you are interested in keeping up to date with what's happening on beta, I'm probably going to be doing a weekly rundown of the major updates, so feel free to subscribe to my YouTube or follow me on Twitter to stay up to date on when I am posting. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.